Hey, welcome to the segment. We just saw The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. And so this is our review. We're going to do spoiler-free at the beginning. We're going to get into spoilers in just a second. Mm-hmm. And so, Kivan, what did you think?
Well, I think as far as a movie goes, we heard a lot of people saying they really enjoyed it, but it was really hard work for me, to be honest. I don't like to beat up on a movie just because. I know there's four, and to be fair, I didn't see the part one of this. I watched the original one, and that was a pretty good movie, but this was hard. It was way too long. I thought an hour and a half would have been perfect.
Obviously, we're not the demographic for this movie,
well,
and I know, like, going into these movies, we definitely try to know that, and we give it consideration.
Yep.
But yeah, one thing that we do in the previous video to this one, we did fan interviews, and when we were talking with fans, a lot of fans said that this movie was action-packed.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a generation gap for us to say, I didn't see a whole lot of action in this movie at all. I don't know what they were talking about. To me, this was this movie felt so stretched out. It felt so like the scenes were so padded. There was times even in it where a character would go down and list like 8 characters, maybe like 8 characters that had died in the past or something, and then they would say, "So we're doing it for," and then they list the same 8 characters again,
or
like
yeah,
slowly, and suddenly you're just like, "Damn, you guys are really trying to make this movie longer." That's what it felt like to me.
Well, I think, and you touched on it right there. You know, the demographic. If you're a teenage girl, this is a film that you've got to go out and watch. Okay, I get that. If you're, you know. A guy film, no, it's not. You know, 2 guys can't. We went and watched it. Obviously, we're not like that. But you know, for us to go and watch the show, it's hard work. If you're on a date, I get it. Maybe.
I think the Hunger Games had more, like the original Hunger Games movie. I think had more for guys to enjoy. I think this one, I think, really went hardcore on the sappy drama aspect of it, and it was just like sappy, cheap drama. It felt.
Well, you know, actually, what I thought myself was it was like Days of Our Lives with pyrotechnics and bows and arrows and guns. I think it was designed for children, you know, kids or teenagers, I should say, and kids as well to be able to watch it. And I think a lot of women are going to appreciate it because it's not overly violent. But it's more violent, perhaps, than some of the shows. But I don't know. It was really hard for a guy to watch it. I just don't think it has enough credibility. She's a leader of men. I don't get that either. She's too young. She doesn't feel like a true leader.
Like the whole she's supposed to be some sort of inspirational genius.
I don't get it.
And it feels pretty forced. It doesn't seem realistic whatsoever.
Well, I think history has taught us one thing, that there aren't many women you know, warriors. I mean, there's been a few till I
think that's the whole point of this movie, but it was just like the dialogue that she was given to say in some of these
it wasn't
speeches.
inspiring.
It wasn't inspiring. Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of good things about the film, and obviously, if you're into this film, you're going to love it and you're going to hate us. But there's, you know, you've got some good actors in there. Old school, you got Woody Harrelson. You know, you got Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
You know, Stanley Tucci, and then you've got
Philip Seymour Hoffman's probably one of his last movies that he's in.
Exactly, although he wasn't in it very much. But, you know, and then there's so many young leads that they're all kind of look anemic. And I can understand the young kids saying, "Oh, I love Peter, I love this one," whatever. But as a film, just from a filmmaking perspective, I understand that film's going to make money. Yeah. And I understand that's what Hollywood's all about right now. But they've been putting out some absolute garbage lately, to be honest. And I think it's a money maker. They got that bit right. Could it have been better? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think even I did kind of notice some of the special effects at some points. It seemed like it was a little bit cheaper than it needed. Than it should have been. And I was thinking, when I was seeing those, I was thinking, what do they care? They're still going to make the money. Well,
that's true. They're going to make the money. It was before they even made the thing, they knew we were going to make money on it. And, you know, you can't knock Hollywood for that. They need money. All businesses need money. And a lot of people are going to be going, what are they talking about? They're so stupid. This is a great film.
Well, Jennifer Lawrence is probably pretty expensive at this point, too. Because when she started, I saw a figure the other day, she got $500,000 for the first Hunger Games. and now she's making 10, 20 million a movie. I mean, she's a huge
But
star,
she's-
so you got to spend the money there.
You know, but you know, if you took her out and put her in another movie, she'd fade. I mean, this is a role they've written for her, but I'm sorry, it's not a great film. It's not great acting from her either. There's a few.
Well,
you
like-
said she was going to get an Oscar. Is that what you said?
Well, yeah,
I mean-
you know, there's some attempts at emotion.
Yeah.
I think
Throwing stuff at the. Oh, we shouldn't. Say
I
that,
really
yeah.
think it was more the lines that they were given, and I think that so much in this movie. I'll say it again. You know, they split this one into two from one book. Should have been a trilogy, but they made it a 4-part series, and I think it really showed in this movie. I was noticing that
Padding.
because there was, you know, they're going on this assault of the Capitol, you know, and there's so many times when they're filming them like sleeping. They're filming them like eating dinner for like 15
Well,
minutes.
we should probably do that bit in spoilers, but
Yeah.
no,
Well,
you're
yeah,
right.
yeah,
But what
keep it
score
general.
would you give it out, though? I mean, honestly, as a film.
Well, personally, you know, I hated it, but I'll give it a C for delivering, you know, making the fans happy and being what it is. I think I thought it was completely forgettable.
I think
There was
so.
nothing about it that I felt, you know. I think what a lot of these fans are doing too. I think if you read the book, there's probably a lot more in it for you. Like I feel like maybe it wasn't coming to, like the people that seem to enjoy it the most had read the book.
I've read the book, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What's refreshing,
I was
people can
missing
still
something.
read. I mean, you know,
yeah,
and still do read. But you know, the cinema photography wise and everything else, it was okay. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of blue screen in it, really cheap the way they did it. So I really can't give it out of 10. I'm being generous at 5, to be honest. So I'm going to give it 5 out of 10. I know that IMDb not going to agree with us, and probably about 7, 7.5, somewhere around there. But to me, it wasn't worth more than 5.
well, let's do a spoiler warning just
Yeah.
in case. You know, some of this will be spoilers, some of it won't. But if you don't want spoilers, go ahead and turn it off and check out the first fan review. That's spoiler free.
Yep.
But now that we're into spoilers too, I mean, it was just. It was
hard to watch.
well, you know, they would go do like one little, you know, corny, and I'll give it, like, I'm okay with the corniness because that's that universe, you know.
Right.
So they would do like one corny, like a fire thing, right? Like that was a trap to kill them, and then they would go somewhere, and then you have 15 minutes of them talking about something ridiculous.
When you mention it yourself, you know, when they're naming off 8 names, I felt like saying, and Donna and Dixon, you know, it's like, what the hell are we doing?
And then he stops, and then he goes back and he
And he
names the
goes-
same 8 names again.
Or maybe different names,
Yeah.
but what the
I
bloody waste
think
of
it
time.
was the same names.
Was it? Oh, it was just
Yeah, he's like,
nonsense. Yeah.
you know, blah, 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 died. And so now we're doing it for blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what the hell, dude? Like, you can't even...
And what's with it? You know that bit, that boiling oil or wherever it was, it suddenly stopped while they fell over and then it carried on again.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen real oil do that? Stop in the middle of the... It was ridiculous. I mean, some of the special effects were absolutely bloody stupid, quite frankly. And then, you know, there was a couple of... I like the one where the machine guns come out of the wall. Kind of redundant because there's nobody there, but that was
But
pretty
if
cool.
you took all these scenes and you cut out them sitting around...
I know, it's been this short.
Yeah, it would have been a 30-minute long movie.
Yeah, it really would.
Where they're actually progressing the plot. And I mean, they're literally... If you want to hear Katniss tell PETA or whatever to come around and that she still loves him for 20 straight minutes at a time, this is the movie for you, because that's the conversations. Like they'll be sitting in a room and he's just saying, I do you love me? Is this true? Yes, I love you. It's true. Are you sure you love me? Yes, I'm sure you love me. But you still love me, right? I love you. It's okay. You're just not yourself. I don't know if I love you. No, I love you. I love you.
But you know what's
Like
funny?
that.
But when we got up to leave about 5 times.
Oh yeah, they had about 5 endings too. It suffered from
Go
that.
up or sit back down.
It went as far as to go into the
Grandkids.
Yeah. She had it flashed to where she had her kids, and then we were about to walk out. I'm like, no, wait. They're probably gonna flash forward to where she's telling her grandkids about it.
It was
But you know, they want you to. I never got. I think the love story between Katniss and Peeta, even from the first movie, it just never did it for me. It didn't make any sense. There was never enough motivation there for me, and so you really have to care about those two characters, and especially in this movie, he's like brainwashed, so he's like an asshole half the movie, and you're just like, why does she love him so much?
Well, you know,
it just doesn't make any sense.
And I'm going to try to be careful how I say this, but I think, you know, the problem with a lot of actors is they're 5 years old and they're put into a little film, and then they're in another film, then they get a film school or whatever, and they come out of it and then they don't actually have any real feelings. And that's kind of how I felt the acting was in there. You know, the younger ones, there was they weren't using their eyes, they weren't telling the story, there wasn't any real passion or
at this point,
you never felt any connection
it really
between any of them.
Felt
acting.
Corporate.
Yeah,
it felt
very corporate
like
acting.
a you know, if it was a meal, it would have been something like from Denny's as opposed to a
commissary, not from a chef.
Yeah,
there you go. I like that, buddy. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
But you know, the truth of the matter is, you know, the lines were okay. They weren't greatly delivered. They weren't badly delivered, but it just wasn't damn well.
You
believable.
could tell. I mean, you know, that the lines were written in a way to elongate a plot that was. No, there wasn't much there, and I think they could have. I think the movie. I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people enjoying it, so I guess we're just not getting it. But it would seem to me that they could have had twice the action. They could have. There was nothing holding them back from having more of those scenarios, and you know.
Well, the bigger fight would have been better.
You know, having a 3-minute long conversation about "Do you love me?" instead of drawing that out to 10 minutes. There was a part where Peeta and the other guy, they're sitting there and they're talking about, no, she loves you. No, I saw the way she kissed you. No, I saw the way she kissed you. No, she loved. It just keeps going. And it's just like, mention it. You know, maybe mention it while you're walking to something, and then have something happen.
Well, maybe that's how they thought that the youngsters were buying into it. You know, maybe that's what it was. Because
it felt like a bad take on like Friends or something.
Well,
like where they go somewhere and then they sit around and then they just talk
and shoot whatever. Yeah. Well, and you know, Francis Lawrence directed it. I don't know. I think as a director, you've got to really pull it together yourself and make sure you get the actors to kind of buy into what you're doing, and to some degree you did, but it wasn't compelling, and again with the wrong what would you say, demographic. But the reality is, you know, if you look at it just as a pure film, it was pretty mediocre. It's not going to be in your collection unless you're buying it for the wife.
In fact, the one couple that we did talk to who said they hadn't read the book didn't like the movie that much.
Right.
I think that the people that are liking this movie that read the book, I think they're projecting things onto it from the book.
Well, that's true, and you can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that makes it more enjoyable. I like to do that myself sometimes, but definitely I because I didn't see part one. You said I didn't really miss too much, so it was very hard, you know, for me to.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know what to tell you that you missed because Mockingjay Part 1 is just more of this stuff. I mean, it like the Hunger Games original had something.
I saw that one. Yeah, of course.
And then the second one had like another version of the Hunger Games, but this Mockingjay thing is just all that you missed was just them walking more places and just some more explosions. I mean, it's just, I don't get it. Like, it feels like forced at this point.
Well, to be honest, you know, the Maze Runner, Divergent, you know, these all kind of made to mash into one, and just because you've got a better cast is the only reason you might get more following. But like you said, it was books, so maybe that's kind of... It was definitely busy tonight.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there, and we're probably going to get some hate on this.
Oh, and that's okay, because you know what? I love Bond, he doesn't, I get big on that. So we're all going to have different taste levels, and we totally get it that you're not going to necessarily agree every time with us.
In fact, I told him while we were in there, I'm like, you know, this is the other extreme of Bond, where they're sitting there, you know, I felt that Bond didn't have enough, I felt that Bond didn't have enough dialogue and kind of explaining what the plot was. And this one, that's all they do is explain what the plot was, but they don't actually do anything. for most of the movie. You know, they're going through a city and they show this map. And there's hundreds of these traps, like thousands of these traps.
And they get into 4 of them.
Yeah, well, it was like 3.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, that was it.
It was boring. And maybe they didn't want to put a lot of fighting in it, but I think it would have been kind of cool.
Well, I thought that's like the point,
well,
though.
that's what I thought, too.
The Hunger Games, there was a lot of fighting in the first one.
And I thought this one was going to be the same
Yeah.
way. So I was kind of disappointed from that perspective.
I really felt a different vibe from it, and I really felt, more so than the original Hunger Games, I really felt like I was in a movie for teenage girls. I felt like the Hunger Games original, it was for teenage girls, but it was something that everybody could watch. You know, it's kind of like SpongeBob. It's for kids, but you know, adults can get enjoyment out of it too because it's smart. The Hunger Games was for teenage girls, but there was adults watching it, getting enjoyment out of it. This one had nothing for, you know, anybody else besides teenage girls, I think.
Well, I think, you know, couples, I can see that.
Or fans that had read the books, you know, as teenagers,
together.
Now they're in their 20s.
Well, exactly,
you know,
that's what I'm saying, you know, young adults. But the thing is, if you're, you know, a guy and you don't go and watch the movie unless you really love that book, the books. Because it's not up there with, you know, any of the decent movies. And there's not been that many this year, but this is definitely a 5 out of 10 for me. Sorry, guys. Not much else to say about it, really. I'm trying to think if there's any of the spoilers, you know?
Well, I just thought one part that summed it up for me was there was a line that, you know, they were going to film them and broadcast it because, like, they're the film, they're the propaganda unit, and they're going to scare all the people at the Capitol, and I'm looking at the I'm like, oh yeah, don't they look scary as shit? It's like kind of, you know, sums up the whole thing. Like, oh my God, Jennifer Lawrence, she scares the shit out of me. Like,
just because you got a haircut, long one, you know.
I mean, you know, and the whole team, it just didn't. It didn't match up with what there was a disconnect, you know, of this like powerful goddess type that like scary woman. Sorry, I just didn't get that.
Well, and the thing is, if you're going to show a war film, I mean, then you've got to kind of start looking at all the analogies of other war films, and this doesn't even cut close to any. The battle scenes were pretty lame, I mean. So, from an adult perspective, it was very hard to watch that. It was nothing, never really got going for me. I was very, very bored, to be honest. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Days of Our Lives with pyrotechnics, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, definitely.
And the acting
very
was pretty
soap opera.
par.
You know, and it doesn't have to be that bad because The Walking Dead, that's a soap opera.
Yeah, it is.
It's a soap opera with zombies, but the story's compelling, and this, I just, you know, they loved each other because they loved each other, and I don't think her and either of those guys had chemistry.
No, well, and that's what I'm saying about the acting. They didn't project. You know, sometimes you learn your lines and you're memorizing them rather than actually getting into the part and becoming that person. And I never felt that there was any eye contact that really connected.
And you almost got the feeling that they don't like each other in real life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was no. Excuse me for saying, but no sexual chemistry, which you would have, even at that age. I mean, no one said they're going to be into each other. There was just no chemistry there, and you know, there's no those little slight touches and just the little nuances that you do when you like somebody. So where's the director in all that? You know, saying, hey, well, this doesn't feel like you guys even like each other. You know, at least kind of just a slight brush of the hand, or even that just that little momentary lapse of, you know, there's people around us. Oops, I forgot. You know. There's nothing. There was no buy-in for me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we were tired watching it, but the movie itself felt tired. It felt like they were tired making it.
Well, and we, you know, when we got up to leave, you know, well, 5 times, we noticed there's a lot more talking going on.
Yeah. In fact,
crowd
it said, you know, well, in that scene, you know, the 5th ending of the movie when it goes to her with her kids. Yeah. There was a lot of people talking. I was like, man, look, even the crowd's bored of this now. Because, I mean, that movie could have ended, you know...
5 times.
5 times. It just kept going. But anyways, so I got a C. He's got a 5, so I think we're pretty much rating it the same. Sorry if you're, you know, a 16-year-old girl who's done your favorite movie, but, you know, it's not our genre either. I mean, it wasn't meant for us, and maybe, you know, I don't know. I missed something. I didn't get it.
Yeah, maybe we need to go back to like when we were 13 or something.
I don't know. Maybe we need to, yeah, like, I don't know.
The old gits didn't like it. Boo, boo! And,
yeah.
The Muppet Show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guys in the rafters. But anyways, subscribe. You can subscribe to Blue Number Media if you want to, you know, watch us take a poop on another movie one of these days. And we do movie reviews every week. We do first fan reviews of the movie, and that's being fair. Because that's giving you, if you don't like what we said here,
right,
you can watch the fan reviews and they liked it. So
exactly.
So there you go. And anyways, we got lots of stuff coming up. So subscribe to Blue Number Media, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.